All right, I'm going to walk you through my TruHealth epigenetic report and show you how it ties into like my past testing, Dutch, genetics, etc. Because you're going to see all of them show the same pattern, and I got a huge aha moment from this test, and I'm really impressed with it. Epigenetics is essentially how your genetics are presenting, because not all of your SNPs that you go over when you get your genetic markers are going to show up in your life. They're not all going to be meaningful. It's going to change even like your stress levels and trauma history and toxin exposure. That can change your genetic biomarkers. Well, they can't change your genetic SNPs, but they're going to change how your SNPs present, which is essentially what this test is looking at. So I'm going to scroll by section and explain what each major marker actually means. First, let's look at up here. You can see that a few things are in suboptimal that I was kind of expecting. Definitely metabolic markers. Stress is always like my number one thing, even though I feel much less stressed now than I have in the last couple years. But you can see we'll go through each of these piece by piece. We're going to skip this section for now. We'll come back to it. And first, let's look at vitamins. So most of my vitamins look pretty good. I'm really proud of those B vitamins. And that fits what I kind of already know and take. I don't necessarily have a classic vitamin deficiency problem. I have bottlenecks in certain processes like methylation and cell membrane and sulfur metabolism. And the important ones that you can see that are pretty low is choline, as well as vitamin A as low. So low choline, we'll see in another section, they're going to, or phosphatidylcholine is one of those nutrients that comes up for me again and again and again. And that matches a genetic SNP that I have in a couple different SNPs, but specifically the PEMT gene. And the what I already expected to be a big problem is cell membrane fragility, which also is going to affect bile flow, histamine tolerance, hormones, and mast cells. So everything pretty much. Looking at amino acids, here's where the biggest story starts to appear. I have multiple amino acids showing high breakdown markers. So let me make all these small. So there's like little explanations of what all these are if you want to get a better understanding. But um, uh, valine, threonine, histidine, carnosine is extremely high. And then down at the very bottom, you can't see it here, but AKG is extremely high as well. So this matches some of those genetic markers, specifically MTHFR, CBS. So I have a CBS gene that's upregulated, and BHMT. And that essentially means that my body is pushing amino acids into stress and inflammation pathways and not using them efficiently for energy or repair. This also matches my Dutch test where cortisol is low. I've done lots of cortisol tests and it's always very, very low because the body will burn amino acids for survival when that stress is chronic. So, not a good sign here. Antioxidants are mostly good, which again shows the issue is not a deficiency, it's distribution. My body's using antioxidants to put out inflammation fires. This definitely matches some of my genes, which show that I run more inflammatory and need more glutathione recycling. But where we see some more big aha moments is here in fats and cellular membrane. So you can see again, phosphatidylcholine is low. That again kind of always comes up for me. Omega-3s are very high, which is interesting because you'd think, oh, inflammation, push more omega-3s. But if you follow Body Bio's education at all, which is the company that makes balance oil and phosphatidylcholine and a few other oils and lipids, you know that most people are actually deficient more in these healthier omega-6s and not omega-3s. I wasn't taking any omega-3s at all. I was actually taking Body Bio PC and balance oil already. And you can see even with taking this, it's still the lowest thing on this list. So I can't even imagine how low my omega-6s might have been without taking that for a couple months already. I also have a genetic SNP in APOE4 and also those SNPs for cell membranes. So this also explains some of my lingering symptoms with drier skin, especially my lips, histamine issues, and why I kind of always need to support bioflow. Oh, and then lipid peroxidation looks okay. Where is it? Oh, down here. LDL particle size is extremely low, which means that particles are small and dense, which can also come from low PC, low linoleic acid, mitochondria slowdown, chronic stress, toxin exposure. And this is also going to match some of my genes, like the APOE4 again, GSTP1, and then on my Dutch test, also kind of a poor estrogen clearance. Then looking at that blood pressure section, so I'm not even going to attempt to say that, is elevated. And this also is kind of like a gut-driven inflammatory metabolite from excess phenylalanine breakdown. I do have that slow COMT, slow MAOA, and that means that catecholamine breakdown gets overwhelmed. So again, same pattern, stress, amino acid shunting, and then inflammatory metabolites showing up. For metabolic markers, glucose is high, palmitoylcarnitine is high, satiety hormones leaning towards dysregulated. This also kind of matches lower cortisol chronically, which these are all showing that my body's using adrenaline, amino acids, and glucose to survive and not being able to be metabolically flexible. So tired but wired. Mitochondria are really stalled here. Then we have the immune markers. So this section is very telling. CD4 to CD8 ratio is very low. This also matches on lab work. Neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio also being low. This means my immune system is not actually overreactive. It's actually more suppressed and under-responsive, which I know you're like, with mast cell, how can that possibly be true? With allergies, how can that possibly be true? But it essentially means the immune system is not able to fight the like chronic infections or toxins, so it might react with histamine and mast cell degranulation instead. So this is like classic what mold will do to the body. And again, I was probably exposed to mold in Vietnam for a month or two. So the root of mold being an exposure is it suppresses the immune system. Then you have chronic or you start to get infections or not be able to address things the way that you normally would. And then the mast cells become more triggered. Neurocognitive markers. Here's where it gets really interesting that I had never really considered some of this stuff before. So dopamine sulfate, extremely high as like the metabolites. Um, this again kind of matches that slower COMT. I'm not breaking down the metabolites very quickly or very well. I'm feeling more wired. Slow MAOA genes. Again, low cortisol, high adrenaline. TGF beta is, where is that one? Did I miss it? I thought it was here somewhere. Oh, yeah, right here. So it was right next. It was right next. TGF beta. So this is another chronic inflammation repair marker. And then the I thought that was here too. No, I don't see it. Oh, yeah. And then this one, quino, I can't say these at all. Quinolate pathway being elevated, also brain inflammation. So I love my lithium orotate. I think that that helps a lot. Another marker, nervous system running at sympathetic for a really long time. Ironically, inflammation markers are all pretty moderate, not zero, but I would expect them to be a little elevated with the symptoms and patterns I've had for a while. Stress markers, these are two huge findings. Chronic stress and inflammation loop again. Kynurenine means that tryptophan is being pushed into the inflammatory pathway instead of serotonin. And I always see low serotonin coming up for me. VMA means I'm burning through adrenaline, not cortisol. And again, this drives that dopamine sensitivity, histamine sensitivity, why supplements sometimes feel like too much. Like I have to be careful. I'm not sensitive to supplements, but anything stimulatory can keep me up and awake all day. Toxins, PFAs. These I'm not surprised to see because we were eating on a lot of styrofoam and plastic, and definitely not going to be doing that now that I'm back in the States. Mitochondria and NAD, um, DRP1 and ATP synthesis are okay, not the best, but where you start to see a big understanding is down here with AKG is extremely high. So this essentially is pointing to mitochondria are really at a choke point. Like the Krebs cycle is backed up, amino acids are being shunted, the whole system is just not working correctly, which can explain why I always have struggled with weight loss. And of course, trying to go on like lower carb, higher protein has never worked. In fact, feeling worse. And never would have expected that these are some of the things that are like, Amanda, eat more carbohydrates. You need to eat carbs for breakfast. You need to eat carbs for every single meal, more fiber, and less of that, like trying to get in your protein. So yeah, that's what I wanted to go over. This was really insightful. But I wanted to go over the recommendations because they recommend, like, for example, omega 3s here, but as we know, I don't actually need more omega 3s. Like they're I'm too omega 3 dominant. So their recommendations need a little bit of tweaking. I'm sure it's just, what helps with this? Oh, let's add everything in that helps with that. And it is not taking into consideration some of the other markers. So I would consider working with somebody who's going to be able to understand the whole test instead of just looking at their recommendations, because you see that again here. And then NAC is also not a good fit for me because I have that CBS upregulation gene, which NAC is a sulfur molecule, so it's going to push that even further and create more ammonia. So you really have to work with somebody who's going to understand the connections between everything before just supplementing. So if you want to do this test, I'm your girl. Send me a message, click the link, and book a call with me, and we can go over packages and all of that. Thanks so much.